Blank sheet of paper can be intimidating as there seems to be an endless number of variables to consider. Where do you begin? So Dan Thompson mentions to start from the height. You want to set the variables. You want to set a few variables and to make it a little more simple. So after setting the top, which indicate and the bottom, which indicates the total height of your drawing, then you'll begin with a series of approximations using straight lines. And as Dan has mentioned it, those are the lines of linear extension. And so it's always a question, even once you begin with the lines of linear extension, like which lines do you draw first? And so you want to simplify everything you do. So if you're going to choose three primary lines to draw first, you'll consider the lines that indicate the balance of the pose caused by the effects of gravity on the body. The pose is basically a sitting figure, is kind of there. The proportions aren't really accurate in any way yet. I haven't really considered the proportions very much, as I've just been thinking about, how can I stay focused on the topic of discussion that we're having, which is to organize and solidify our variables. We've basically taken the blank sheet of paper. We've put some semblance of a figure on the page, and we have some architecture, some structure to work with. Dan calls it the scaffolding. It's basically like the 2x4s, the frame of the house. We're just getting the frame of the house established, and that's what we're doing right now in the drawing. Basically, is getting the architecture on the blank sheet of paper so that we have something to work with. If we have nothing to work with, then we have nothing to work with, and the variables are endless. And then we're left in that existential crisis of, that question of like, what the hell am I going to do? But now we have something to work with, so we can start honing it in and getting into some of those subforms, those smaller forms and smaller angles. But I'd like to stay on the topic of fixed variables, because this is something that psychologically we have a struggle with. Usually when we're drawing, is that when we draw, we want something to be perfect immediately. We basically just want to click the button and have the image perfect. But that's a photographer, so you shouldn't. That's a different skill. Drawing and painting and sculpting and that kind of thing, to expect perfection immediately is a mistake. So to fix variables too soon is the same thing. It's a mistake. Dan mentioned something, and I'm quoting Dan a lot because he had a tremendous impact on the way I think about drawing. He said, you want to adopt a drawing strategy that allows you to change and adapt to the pose. And that means we've got to leave our drawings light, leave them open form. You don't want to close them off too soon. We're not solidifying our variables to a point that we can't move them. As soon as we can't move anything and we get really committed to the line, committed to the mark, then notice it the next time you do it. At least for myself, I feel like so anxious, like I've committed to something that I know I'm going to have to change later, but I'm committed to it and I'm not going to change it. And that fills me with anxiety when I draw. I don't know if you experience the same thing, but so I've adopted this mindset that allows me to change anything at any time, whenever, even if there's a huge mistake. It doesn't matter to me anymore. And I feel like I really enjoy the drawing process. And so with the variables, with fixing variables, I will caution against the mindset at all. And I would argue to never fix any variables, never solidify the mind into a permanent commitment to a line that you've made, because you might need to change it. But at some point you're going to have to commit, so it's a little bit, you have to do something. You have to put a line somewhere, and you have to say it's finished at some point. As far as fixing variables go, it's basically a series of approximations the entire way through the drawing. There are some steps to take to make it feel more accurate, and the more accurate we get, the more it's going to look like the thing that we're drawing. By fixing the multitude of variables at hand, if the spatial relationship of those variables are accurate, then we'll have an accurate drawing. But keep the mind open. Don't commit to the idea of fixed variables. That's basically my discussion on fixed variables. and all I want to say about it. But I'll finish this drawing for fun. I'll put a little time lapse and some music, and if you're interested, you can watch the drawing finished. I would love some input. I'm just trying to figure out how to make some YouTube videos that are not super boring, so, and that are also, not boring but informative, like educational. So I would love your feedback on like formatting and just whatever feedback you have to give. But I hope you enjoy the rest of this time-lapse video and have a good time.